Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in to this show and this particular segment here at Neasman Consulting. If you are watching this, then you are someone who is dedicated to maximizing your potential and mastering success, scaling growth professionally and personally, business and life, and you are looking for the edge, or you are possibly struggling in growing your profession, and you're looking for ways to add value both to yourself and to your company. Either way, you are in the right place, and I want to thank you so much for joining. I don't take your time lightly. Now today we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to me. It's known as high performance leadership, and in case you're wondering who am I and how did I get here in front of you, my name is Marq Neasman. I am a leadership expert. I've had almost 2 decades now in leadership development, change management, and employee performance. So it is really a passion of mine seeing people grow, seeing people move forward in life, because ultimately, I'll tell you my big secret. I believe that if you can scale growth as a business owner, an entrepreneur, an executive, a middle management, whatever the case may be, if you can scale growth there, in the marketplace, you can absolutely be a better husband. You can absolutely be a better father. You can be a better brother. You can be a better friend. And so ultimately, I believe that high performance leadership will absolutely help you to achieve all of those things plus more. This is something that I've leveraged in every area of my life now to build it out, especially as an entrepreneur, managing a team now of 25 individuals. And scaling that company, I know how important it is that I show up not only in skill set, but also in character. And that's what we're going to be diving into today. So please sit tight. This is going to be about 45 minutes. This is going to be dense, okay? So you may want to pull out a pad and you may want to have a pen with you because you're going to get a lot from this. I can promise you that. Very, very little fluff here, okay? A lot of context. So right here we have high performance leadership, and below it you see, these words, these letters that we put together in the form of an algorithm. And that's how I like to first present high performance leadership, because it has to be some science in what it is that we're doing, and this algorithm just helps it make sense for everyone usually after they hear it. So right here you see HP, which stands for high performance, and you see this multiplication sign. We'll talk about that in a minute. But then you see this right here, leadership, which obviously stands for leadership. And we have HP times L, we have HPL. HPL is high performance leadership. So let's go ahead and take a dive into this and see what we come up with. Now, to help us out a little bit, what I did was created a few graphics. Now, I am not at all the best artist, but I know these aren't good, but you should have seen the ones before them, okay? These are much more progressive than the ones before. So what I can guarantee you is, as many times as I've taught this lesson, it's gotten better each time. So this will have to do for now, but I believe it'll also help to give you a great depiction of how high performance leadership is all around you, whether you have realized it or not. Now right here, first we have a flask, and you see it's for experiments, and it represents science, because high performance is science. High performance is skill sets, and we're going to break down what those skill sets look like a little bit before we jump into it. And then here you see a crown. That's my crown, because this multiplication sign is actually a representation of the mind, okay? And my mind is my crown. In fact, here at Neasman Consulting, what we say all the time is fix your crown and rule the day. We believe wholeheartedly that you as a human being, that the most powerful part of who you are is your mind. That's what makes up every decision. That's what makes up your habits. It's what makes up where you go in life and who you become. It's all a part of your mind. So we believe that the mind should be at the forefront of this high performance leadership conversation, and we're representing that with the shape of in the form of a crown, and we'll talk about that more as well. And then finally, what we have here is performing arts, right? And you have the classic happy face and sad face, because we believe that leadership is really based around a word called character. And inevitably, no matter where you go in life, you have great skill sets but very little character, you will inevitably struggle. Now, before we go too far, what I want to do is actually space these out a little bit so that we can have a real conversation about each one of them, because we're going to be doing some drawing a little bit here as well, okay? So as I space these out, all right, I'm going to expand them a little bit, give each one of them their own room and space so that we can have a good conversation about how these apply to your life right now, maybe whether you realize it or not. So, first things first, high performance. Now, high performance is, like we mentioned, it's a skill set, okay? And it's made up of science, all right? So now when we talk about science, we're talking about something that we believe is easily transferable. We believe science is universal. That means that if it applies here, I'm in Orlando, Florida. If it applies here in Orlando, Florida, it obviously applies on Pluto as well. Otherwise, there is a break in the theory. And we believe that when it comes to science, especially from the context we'll be speaking about, which is primarily business, then these are skill sets that can easily be taught or transferred to other people. There's no one person who can learn a skill set that another person can't if they have the proper mindset about it. So when we're saying science here, you heard me use another word called skill sets, and we believe that there are 3 primary skill sets that you need to have in order to be successful in the marketplace, okay? 3 primary skill sets you need to be successful in the marketplace. Now, the next question obviously is, hey, well, what are these 3 skill sets that I need in order to be successful and thrive in the marketplace? Or what are these 3 skill sets that further? What are the 3 skill sets that are actually a part of every business model? It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. These 3 skill sets will ensure that you can scale growth no matter what it is that you're doing, okay? Whether you're watching this and you run a podcast, or you're watching this right now and you are the executive of a communications company, you're watching this right now and you are a coder, you're watching this and you build cars, or you build homes, or you're on roofs, or you pour concrete. It doesn't matter what it is that you are doing right now. I can promise you that just with these 3 skill sets that I'm going to mention, you can continue to level up in your life without ever having to move into another field. And the reason that that's important is because you're watching this and you are a fairly intelligent individual. You're not watching this show and you have not done well in your life, okay? You're not watching this show right now and you haven't succeeded in some area of your life. And so what does that mean? That means that your success can be built upon based off of these 3 skill sets. And that's really, really important for you to know, because for the sake of time, you can't get time back. You can't win that back. So you have to feel confident in knowing that, man, no matter where it is that I am in life right now, I can apply any one of these 3 skill sets that Marq is about to share with me, and it will put me in a position to be able to earn more money, to be able to create more impact, and to be able to have much more influence in my business and in life in general. Okay, so with no further delay, let's go ahead and jump into these. Now, I am an individual, like I mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. So I had to understand money. I had to grow and learn money, and I had to grow and understand which skill sets help me to make more money. So this is a income conversation that we're having right here, all right? So if money is something that's important to you, no, it's not all important. It's not the most important thing. But if you and I agree that it is a tool that can be leveraged to live a good life, then absolutely you want to stay tuned. So the first skill set that we believe is of great importance is that of speaking. Now, speaking is inevitably important to everyone because it is the way that information is transferred. So usually in any business transaction, there is a conversion that happens, and that conversion that happens comes from a conversation that took place before the conversion. That conversion is usually in the form of money transferring from the hands of one person to the hands of another, and a product in exchange, or a service in exchange, okay? Those are usually led by speaking. Speaking, if you question at all whether it's important, I just want you to look inside of your life and take the 5 people that have influenced your life the most, and I can guarantee you that every one of them held the ability to communicate a message really, really well. Now, some people go back and forth about this regarding speaking, but speaking is not easy. It's actually, and while it's not hard, it's not easy. But it is absolutely something that most people fear. It fluctuates between the first greatest fear and the third greatest fear, and it's up there alongside snakes and heights and death. But reality is most people are not comfortable with using words. Now that's a crazy contradiction, because if you had to ask a person, do they communicate very well, the average person would say that they do a great job of communicating. But the reality is we don't know how to connect, and that is the gift of speaking. That's what speaking does. Speaking allows me, someone that you've never probably physically met before, to be able to connect with you and transfer information in a way that allows you to take it in, digest it, and even begin to apply it to your life. Speaking is huge no matter what industry you are in. You can always find a conference that's going on. Those are speakers, keynote speakers that have been paid very well to go forward and do what it is that they're doing. You can earn a living, 6-figure living and higher, much higher, just off of mastering the skill set of speaking. So again, it doesn't matter what it is that you are doing. Okay, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be in lumber, you could be in the trades, you could be in gold, you could be in the stock market. It doesn't matter what it is that you are doing. Speaking will inevitably help you to increase your impact, income, and influence just by mastering this one single skill set. Okay, another one that we're going to address today that inevitably adds value to your life and allows you to scale growth just by learning the skill set is that of coaching. Now, remember, you don't need to know all of these. You can literally just master one of these and do really, really well in your life. Now, if you're in middle management, coaching is a powerful skill set that you could leverage in order to continue to scale growth, okay? If you are an executive, inevitably, coaching is something that you will pull from or glean from in order to continuously scale growth, all right? And coaching is one of my favorites because I'm a team building guy. I live by something, and that one thing I live by is that no man can achieve anything great by themselves. Now, you can be amazing. You can be great all by yourself. You can be great all by yourself because you can apply yourself and you can grow. You can go and read, and you can pick up books, and you can take courses, and you can listen to courses like this that we're having right now, and that will inevitably make you a great person. But to accomplish something great requires people. You can't do anything great by yourself. So coaching helps us to achieve great things. You say, well, Mark, how exactly do I implement coaching? Coaching is implemented really from a few different strategies. There are many people that teach different ways to go about coaching and training, but I tell you one way we're not talking about. It's not necessarily in the context of sports. So I have a sports background. For over 20 years, I played sports as a quarterback. So I got very accustomed to receiving coaching and being a coachable individual from other people who probably couldn't do what I could do as good as me. You see, so that's what's so beautiful about it. Many times, you may think that as a coach, I have to be great at something in order to be able to coach someone else in it. And that's really not how this show works, especially in the marketplace, because I can promise you there will always be someone better than you in the marketplace. That's not the objective. That's not the worry here. The worry is, how do I improve what performance an individual already has as a baseline? And that is what coaching helps us to do. Okay, so we realize that as middle management, hey, we can't be the ones always doing the implementation, but can we help people who are there and doing it to do it better and at a higher level? Because inevitably, what does that mean for your growth and your development? Inevitably, it means that you will move forward in your career and that you will see greater days. And that's ultimately what we want for you. We want more impact, more income, and more influence. So coaching is an amazing skill set that allows us to do that. And the third one that we are going to talk about today is that of selling, okay? Now, selling tends to have a negative connotation to it. Some people don't like selling. Some people view it as a negative way, but the reality of it is that here in America, in a state where, in a nation where we are based off of consumerism, and this is a capitalist nation, selling is and has always been for the last century or so one of the top 5 paying careers that a person can be in. In fact, if you aspire to own anything of your own, you will have to sell. Okay, it is undeniable that is something you have to do. And if you plan to make a lot of money, you will have to sell at some point. Okay, even if you say, oh well, Mark, no, actually I don't necessarily care to be an entrepreneur. I only really, I want to go to school. I went to school, I got a degree, I specialize in something, I'm passionate about this one thing. Okay, great. You're still going to have to sell yourself to one employer and get them to be willing to continuously be a buyer over the course of years for your plan or your skill set to matter, or for it to be a payoff, in other words, okay? So regardless, everyone is into selling, whether we realize it or not. And most times if we do have a negative connotation towards it, it's because you were a part of someone manipulating you. Someone coerced you in many cases to make an investment into something that you really didn't want or you really didn't need. And I've been a part of that as well, where I was going in for one thing and then I got sold on something else, all because it helped for that person's commission. And that's not what necessarily we're talking about here, although it does happen. The same way as in speaking, you can be told something that's not true. You can be misled, or things can be misinterpreted, right? It's the same thing no matter really what industry we go into. But selling also was the same thing that happened when you purchased the car you wanted, or you purchased the home you wanted, or it was the MacBook or the cell phone, or whatever the case might be. The only difference is you absolutely wanted what it was that you got. So there wasn't this coercement to get you to make the investment on whatever it is that you purchased. Okay, but selling, coaching, and speaking are absolutely the primary skill sets that you can leverage to be able to see tremendous growth in your life. You can take the skill set that you know right now, especially with the power of the internet. You can, and everything and the advancement of technology, you can absolutely take any one of these 3 skill sets and make an amazing life for yourself, no matter what industry you are in right now, okay? And that's what I believe is so powerful about this concept of high performance, all right? Now, is high performance all that there is to the elements? No, okay? Whether we realize it or not, skills is not enough. It's not good enough to just be a skilled individual. And that's where we're going to touch on these other 2 components, because it takes a conglomerate of a few different elements to actually make us be successful in life, okay? So right here we have these 3 elements. And if you're like, hey Mark, man, before we get going too far into this, I actually like what you're talking about right here, and I believe that this can help me. We actually offer up professional development certifications in each one of these elements. So you can sign up, you can reach out, you can comment below, you'll actually see information below that you can take advantage of, and you can actually reach out to us and find out more about how to get signed up for any one of these certifications if you so please. Now, with no further delay, because we have a long ways to go, I want to tap into these other elements as well. So the next element that we want to focus our attention on is this X. And this X, again, represents our mindset. And so we have a crown here because, if you're at all like me, I'm a personal development junkie. Mindset is everything. Mindset matters far more than my abilities and my skill sets. I'm not the best teacher. I'm not the best salesman. I'm not the best coach. I'm not the best speaker. But I do believe that I have a mindset, a growth mindset that puts me in a position to continuously scale no matter what it is that I choose to do with my time and my efforts. And that's what I believe. That's why I believe it's so important that we touch on this today in this conversation. So with this next element right here, we're talking about the mind, and this is, it's mindset, okay? Now, when we talk about mindset, what we've done is taken a more psychological approach to this, and we've broken down mindset into 4 elements that we believe that any given person is functioning in at any given time. All right. So what does that mean, Mark? These are based around your ability to achieve success. All right. That's what this whole conversation about high performance leadership is. Really, you're on this channel because you want success. All right. Raise your hand if you want success, and every hand goes up. You're here because you want success, and at the cornerstone, the foundation of you getting success is not your skill sets. It's going to be your mindset. Okay. And so moving forward, we break down mindsets into 4. All right. So we have what's called the 4 mindsets. All right. And these 4 mindsets, I'll go in order. All right. From the weakest mindset to the strongest mindset. And before I begin to write too much, if you've heard of anything regarding a growth mindset and fixed mindset, that is exactly what we're going to be talking about right now. So while I am not a licensed professional in psychology or anything of the nature, there are tons of studies out there on this stuff, and you can feel free to just type in Google and figure out, just type in growth mindset and fixed mindset, and you'll see a bunch of stuff pop up, okay, regarding what we're about to talk about right now. But the first mindset that we want to address is that of a detrimental mindset. Detrimental mindset. And detrimental mindset sounds exactly like what it is. I'm going to give us a little graph right here to help us out. But the detrimental mindset, over the course of time, productivity naturally declines. And productivity naturally declines not because one has a great skill set, but because one has a view of life, or at least the success principles that are involved in life. They view them in a negative connotation, or they are even retracted by them. So it naturally calls for our results to be negative, okay? And so that's what you see here. You see a decline in the person's mindset, or at least their views towards life or success, all right? And so the next element here that we will talk about in regard to mindset. And you, by the way, you probably know someone like this, right? You just say, man, you have like a negative thought process when it comes to everything going on in life, and that's normal. That's a lot of people. It's out there, okay? You'll see it. But another type of mindset is what we call stagnant, okay? Stagnant or unconscious. We actually call it unconscious stagnance, and I'm going to break that down for you in a little bit. But this stagnant mindset sounds exactly like what it is. We're not trying to pull any, no fancy words here or talking over your head or anything like that. I promise you, everything here makes perfect sense when we explain it. And a stagnant mindset looks exactly like what it sounds like. A person with a stagnant mindset is stuck. Unconscious stagnance is someone who unknowingly is stuck. Unconscious, they're not aware, and stagnant, they're stuck. So they are unaware that they are actually stuck in life. Okay, we call that stagnant. We call that unconscious stagnance. All right, and this person, over the course of time, I'm going to write down the letter here. I'm going to write down the letter T for time. Okay. This is the letter T for time, okay? And this is the letter P for productivity, all right? So productivity never increases over the course of time. And you can see up here, productivity decreases over the course of time, all right? Now, let's move on a little bit to the next element. And the next element is honestly what I believe is found in just about every person that you come across, and that's called incremental. So, all right, I'm sorry, by the way, about my handwriting, but I'm speaking through it so you can get it as we go. Incremental, all right, incremental sounds like exactly what it is, but it's also why this element is here. So, this incremental mindset is what we believe most people are. But if you look right here, this is a multiplication sign. That's an important fact to note, okay? That's a multiplication sign. That's a very important fact to note. And the reason that's an important fact to note is because it could be a plus sign. It could be an addition sign, but it's not. It's a multiplication sign because we deal in exponents. We don't deal in increments. Addition deals in increments. 1 plus 1 equals 2. We deal more in multiplication. 2 times 2 equals 4, okay? Because the mind has that capability. You say, well, Mark, what do you mean the mind has that capability? The mind has the same ability that money does. The thing that makes money so powerful is because money has the ability to create compound interest. And that same thing happens inside of our minds regarding the information that we take in. The more information that we take in, the more compound interest builds and allows us to have greater thoughts, bigger thoughts, more impact in what it is that we're doing in our day-to-day. So then what happens from there? We get bigger productivity coming back from it. And that just comes, you and I having a conversation, say, oh no, that just comes with practice. Yes, that practice is actually reps, and those reps are giving the mind the ability to make bigger moves and compound interest on knowledge. So right here, incremental growth happens just like it sounds, okay? Again, no tricks, all right? It's a slow progression over the course of time. So almost the exact opposite of a detrimental mindset, right? That incremental mindset moves slowly over the course of time. And this is honestly your average person. This is your average person. Your average person grows incrementally over the course of time. And the reason that they grow incrementally over the course of time is because most people, average people, suffer from what we refer to as herd effect. Average people, which you're probably not because you wouldn't be here, and I don't really attract average people because I'm not an average person, and like attracts like. Average people see incremental growth. Now, there are some areas in my life where I have incremental growth, okay? There are some areas in my life where I'm unconsciously stagnant. There are some areas in my life where I have a detrimental mindset. But regarding success in business and life, that is not the case, all right? That's our focus here. So we can be experiencing any of this at any given point in time, okay? For some people, it may be in health. For other people, it may be in wealth. For other individuals, it may be in their relationships. It varies from person to person. But when we talk about business and leadership, these are not where we necessarily want to trend. When we're talking about high performance leadership, this is not necessarily where we want to trend, but we need to understand where everyone else is at around us, because this conversation that we're having is probably revealing some things to you and making you aware about some things that other people or the average person isn't aware of. And that's a good thing. But while it's a good thing, there is a catch-22 here. You see, because now that your eyes are being opened and you can see a little bit clearer, you can't take those goggles and put them on anyone else. So you at least need to be able to know where everyone else is around you regarding this viewpoint or this outlook, this paradigm on success. All right, that's really what we're having a conversation about right now. And so this next element, to not delay us anymore, this next element is my favorite for obvious reasons, and it goes back to that multiplication sign, because where we really want to be when it comes to our mindset is we want to have an exponential mindset. We want to have an exponential mindset. Exponents are directly tied to multiplication, not addition. That's again the reason that we have here inside of our algorithm a multiplication sign. All right, so we broke down high performance. We're right here inside of this X and what this X represents. And like we said, it represents our mindset and the ability to fix our crown every single day. Fix your crown so that you can rule the day. That's what we say inside of Marq Neasman Consulting. And then we have these 4 mindsets. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, Mark, hey man, I think that this is great, but I really don't have an understanding of where my mindset is. Don't worry about it. We'll answer that in a moment. But this is how the exponential mindset works. And you've seen people do this if you're not one yourself. You've seen people continue, no matter what the case, you've seen people continue to just scale growth and continue to level up time and time again. And you're like, man, how does this guy do this? How does this girl do it? Like, what is it that they're doing? What is it that they know that I don't know? Right? And it's not that you're competing. I don't think that that's the case. I think that you're just aware that success leaves clues and you are attracted to success. So when you see other people generating it in their lives, you naturally begin to ask questions. That's what I think this is more than anything. Okay. I think that same thing is what led you here to watching this particular episode or this particular course that we're having right now. So exponential mindset works a little bit different from the other ones, but it can be tricky. And the reason that it can be tricky is because at the start of it, guess what? Exponential mindset looks just like everybody else. But then there reaches a point where the axis changes drastically and it begins to see tremendous growth. All right. You begin to see a tremendous growth inside of the individual's productivity. And what is happening along this way is these individuals are actually entering new paradigms of thought. And as they enter new paradigms of thought, they naturally, that's what's so beautiful about the mind. The mind doesn't shrink. Once it knows something and has seen something, it doesn't regress. It has to act on what it knows, or there will be some turmoil internally that takes place. All right. Hopefully that's happening right now for you. And if so, then great. That means I'm doing my job. And please comment below and let me know what it is that you think about this. But the people that experience exponential growth in their life are individuals that fought to get around the right people and fought to learn the right information. And so once they knew it, they couldn't unlearn it. Once they knew how to do it the right way, they couldn't do it the wrong way anymore because it would create some turmoil. And them just doing things the right way naturally cause them to be successful in their life. So if you're like, hey, Mark, man, how do I know where I am with this thing? First off, you're asking a great question. And the answer to that is really easy. So what we have already done, I'm going to put this in red because I believe it's very important. But what we did was created the HPL assessment. We created this assessment about 4 years ago. So ongoing now, it's been running online and over 5,000 people have taken it now today. And you can just go and visit HPL assessment. Whoa. You can go and visit hplassessment.com and just take the HPL assessment, the High Performance Leadership Assessment, and see how you score. It's going to take you anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes to take the test. And it's going to break down your viewpoints and your mindset over 11 of the 13 different areas that we actually use to assess whether you are being successful or where it is that you are strong in achieving and where it is you may have some gaps. All right. Like I said, you'll be joining over 400 or over 4,500 other entrepreneurs, business leaders, and highly reputable professionals that have already taken the assessment and gotten results back from it today. And that's right at hplassessment.com. It'll go over these 4 mindsets. You'll see another presentation where we talk about these 4 mindsets, and everything will be a little bit clearer for you as to where you fall at in this gap and where it is you could grow, where you may have some detrimental thoughts, where you have stagnant thoughts, incremental thoughts, or even where you're doing really great and you're blowing it out of the water. Okay. So now let's move on because we still have some ground to cover here. And the next conversation that we really want to talk about is leadership, which is, I love leadership, okay? Leadership has been a part of my life, all right? I know I mentioned that I played quarterback for 20 years, so naturally I've been in a leadership position, having to deal with, 100 plus alpha males through 6 months of a season obviously isn't easy for anyone, but you can imagine being able to grow in that capacity. And really what we're talking about when we're having a conversation around leadership, this is an art form, okay? Oh, I don't want it to be in that color. This is a conversation around an art form, because while high performance is a science, leadership is not so much that. Leadership is more of an art form, okay? That's why we use performing arts. Now, when we say an art form, what are we saying? I'm saying that no one human being is the same as another. And we can find that in something as simple as our fingerprints, right? You know that like I do, that no fingerprint is the same. And no fingerprint is the same because no person is the same. There is no one like you that has ever been created on this earth. There will be no one exactly like you created on the face of this earth. And that makes you unique. And because you are unique, you have your own personality, you have your own thought processes, you have your own background, you have your own likes, your own dislikes, you have a purpose over your life. And whoever it is that is going to be leading you, whether you are conscious of this or not, they need to know these things. You almost automatically expect whoever's leading you to know or want to get to know these elements about you. Okay, and that is exactly the way that it should be, even for you and I. You know, as we continue to scale growth and move forward and build in business and build in the marketplace and build our families at home, we have to be aware that every person that has come underneath our governance is there, and they are entrusting us to know who they are and put them in a position to be able to thrive. That's what I ultimately believe that every leader should be doing. They should be putting the people around them in a position to thrive, because when that person that is underneath your guidance thrives, what does that mean for you? It automatically means that you thrive. You know, sometimes we have detrimental mindsets and we feel that, oh no, if I help this person grow, then they'll grow beyond me. And that's not necessarily the way that this show works. You know, I say all the time within my organization, my job is to fire myself. I'm always trying to fire myself. You know, the thing that gets me going, you want to get me going, come and tell me that you want to be the president of my company. That'll get me going. Why? Because I realize that my real success is not in profitability, although I value it. Like I said, income is a big thing here. It's one of the big I's that we talk about here. But more important than income, it's the ability to impact people's lives. I'm a people person. And at the head of every business is people. That's what makes the business go. So if a person says that they want to make more money, or they want to have more impact, or they want to have more, whatever the case, influence, I say, well, then get really good at understanding people. All right. So moving on, a huge part of understanding people is the fact that everyone is unique, and it becomes an art form. You have to get to know people. There's no one strategy. There's no cookie cutter process. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And the faster we can get away from that thought process, the more that we can actually help people move forward in their lives. And so when we talk about art form, is that image up there was characters, because that's what we're dealing with here. All right, we're dealing with character, and there are about 22 different competencies that make up a person's character, or who a person's character becomes, especially as a leader. And that's the focus that we have right here in this conversation, because in the marketplace, there are only two types of people. There are leaders and followers. That's it. So if you're not a leader, then you're a follower. Nothing wrong with being a follower. Everyone has to be a follower. I followed some really, really great individuals. You heard me mention them early on. And I followed those individuals because I realized that I could naturally glean from their wisdom, and I would inherit everything that they thought and how they went about living life, and the success in their life would transfer over to me. I was highly aware of that, the same way that you are right now, which is why you're scrolling through different professional development courses and you stumbled upon this one. So these 22 competencies we won't talk about right now, because that would take a long time to do, quite frankly. But we will. But I do want to just bring your focus around character, because that ultimately is what we're having the conversation about today. It's when we talk about leadership, we're talking about character. Okay, I'll give a depiction later on, and it'll make everything I'm saying make far more sense. Okay, but character is at the head of this art form that we're talking about when it comes to leadership. So you say, well, Mark, how do I grow in my character? How do I become more equipped in my character to lead people. And the word is really, really simple, okay? It's called emotional quotient. Emotional quotient, otherwise known as EQ. EQ, okay? So let's go over here really quickly. If we have skill sets will be referred as IQ, intellectual quotient, right? Your ability to take in information, process it, and implement it. That's called IQ. But then over here on the other side, where we're dealing with character, that's known more as EQ. And if I had to gauge between the two, or a better way to explain the two, I would ask a question like this. So something else you don't know about me is that I actually built a private school for all boys serving grades 6 through 12. And when I would sit down with parents, I would ask this question. I say, hey, which one do you value more? Do you want your child to be a good person, or do you want your child to be a smart person? If you just had to look into the future, which one would you say? And in most cases, they said, no, I want my son to be a good person. And I believe that's absolutely the right answer. While they wouldn't just say that, somebody say, no, I value my son being smart, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather my son be a good person than a smart person. And the reason that they felt that way is because, like you, they have encountered people who are really smart, but they are jerks. And that just won't fly in the life of an average person, especially if we're talking about me following you. See, while I may need to cultivate a skill set in order for you to, in order to appease you, I might have to develop a skill set, okay? But when it comes, I need to know some science, all right? If I'm going to be effective in anyone's life, I need to know some science. I need to know how to do a few things. But it can't just stop there. So like I said in the beginning, having skill set is not enough. It's not enough that I know how to do something, okay? Instead, I also need to have the proper mindset to get it done. But even further, I need to understand how to make that transfer over to people. Because inevitably, what tends to happen in the marketplace is when I get good at something, I get promoted. And when I get promoted, I'm getting promoted not to do that thing more. I'm getting promoted to help others do that thing more. Because people need to be trained if a company is going to grow. And that means that really what I'm asking is for others to follow me. So while, I do need to have a track record and be able to prove myself to some point, I really need to have the character to be able to sustain and grow forward from what it is that I have attained up to that point in my life. And that is very, very, very important if we're going to see any success. In fact, if I had to choose between the two as to which one is the most important, I'm still going to go with the latter. I'm still going to go with emotional quotient, the same way that those parents did. Those parents said, no, man, if I had to choose between the two, I would lean more so towards my son being a good person. Because what they inevitably understand is that, man, this guy might not blow the world up. He might not be an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or achieve anything at a high level like that, but he will absolutely be a person that people like to be around. And the skill sets will come. That's what we understand inevitably. And this is the exact same way that entrepreneurs, that executives should view it. It's the same way you probably view it in your hiring. It's how I view it when I hire, right? So more than I care about a person being great at what they're doing, I'm really looking at, man, do I want to be around this individual? Does this person have a good spirit, And these are the things that we are looking for when we talk about, I'll even put that word right here, okay? That word spirit, because that is really what makes life worth doing with people. And inside of any building or any type of organization or company or structure of the nature, I want to be around good people much more than I care about being around people who are highly talented, okay? So if you're like, hey, Mark, how do I grow in this component? You know, how do I get better here? Well, we have something that we offer there as well, and that is known as 360 appraisals or 360 feedback. If you're familiar with 360 feedback, you have a company that's large enough, you all have an HR manager, please go and ask them about 360-degree appraisals or feedback and how you can leverage it inside of your organization. If you have never heard of this before, then it's a great conversation to have. And if you want to, you can just visit marqneasman.com/360. I'll make sure that we put it in the comments below, but it's marqneasman.com/360. 360 appraisals is how we are able to help entrepreneurs, executives, business leaders, anyone managing a team of 5 or more to develop in these 22 competencies that you heard me mention earlier. Those 22 competencies ultimately make up the character of who we are and how we move forward in life. The reality is we're not taught about emotional intelligence in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, or in college. This comes with personal development, which is, like I mentioned, I'm a personal development junkie. But I realized that the more I got in tune with me, the more effective I could be in everybody else's life. The better husband I'll be, the better father I'll be, the better entrepreneur and business leader I'll be, the better friend I'll be. When I got really clear with who I am and how I show up in life, okay? So 360 appraisals, we are huge fans of those. And I'm going to put right here 360 feedback, okay? Because that is really the best way that I've seen the marketplace up to today get in tune with who it are. You say, well, Mark, describe 360 appraisals in like 12 words or less. What do people think about me when I am not there? All right, 12 words or less. What do people think about me when I am not there? What are the thoughts that they have about me? These are the things that they won't necessarily tell you, but they absolutely matter when it comes to people making decisions, all right? And these 22 competencies help to get really, the more you can define those things like decision making and things that go on in the mind that are tied directly to emotion that you can't necessarily put in the form of metrics, but have everything to do with the future and the projection of a company or organization or just yourself. They matter. They matter a lot. And they matter far more than what you can do on a sales sheet or what you can do in regard to whatever your career is, your actual skill set. They matter more, right? So this 360 feedback gives us the ability to view everyone around our circle of influence and come to a synopsis of where it is we can grow, where it is we have strengths and we do things really, really well, and where it is that we have weaknesses and we don't do them so well, okay? So moving forward now, I want to take the time out and give a cleaner depiction, all right, to help us understand what's really going on here, okay? And the way that I do that best is just through a simple L graph, all right? So this L graph is going to break down high performance leadership again into 2 simple elements. So over here we have high performance, and we understand that high performance is skill sets, right? It's science, all right? And these skill sets are needed, they're a necessity, right? But then we also have this other component down here for L called leadership, and leadership, we said, is made up of character. So now the 2 elements on our X and Y axis focus on skill sets and character. And you know, I love it because the work that I do, the work that we do now with the military and with government is pretty simple. I'm able to come in there and we ask a simple question, you know, because this is really what it boils down to for them. It's a life and death situation, which is why I really enjoy working with the military, because you know, while you and I might be talking about business, you know, and profitability and being in the red or in the black, for them it's life and death, and that matters far more than the conversations we're having. You know, And even in the midst of me making this actual course right now, there's a war going on. People are dying right now, you know. So to make high performance leader, the question is, does high performance leadership matter? It absolutely matters. Let's make it touch ground, you know, where it matters the most. And for us, that's in our military. So we're really thankful for the powerful military that we have here in America, but we don't take it for granted. And to show you how much this touches ground, we're going to use this example here, okay? So right here, we've broken up this L graph into 4 quadrants, okay? And these 4 quadrants is how every executive or hiring manager, or even those that are just, you know, a director of a position, whatever the case, a director of a department, or whatever the case might be. This is pretty much how we break up and view people on a day-to-day basis. Both people that have been in our lives for an extended period of time and people we are just meeting. We're gauging between these 2 elements. We love skill sets because skill sets say what you can do for me, but we love character because character says what you can do for those around me. And the way, like I mentioned in the military when we have this conversation, is, hey, can I trust him with my life? Does he have the skill sets to shoot a gun? All right. Does he know what to do with a gun? Can I trust him with my life? Does he know how to fly a jet? Will he have my back? If I'm the man on the front line, will he have my back? Okay. Those are skill sets, and they are very much needed when you're talking about war or protecting a nation. But then on the other hand, I have another question to ask. Can I trust him with my wife? Outside of off of the battlefield, can I trust him to be a man of character? Or is he just a goblin that knows how to shoot a gun? You know, we see this same thing taking place right now in a bunch of different areas that we could have ongoing conversations with for a long period of time, right? But these are the 2 questions that we're constantly asking over and over again, right? As an athlete, I ask the same question about the people around me, you know, on my team. I ask the same question, you know, can I trust? I played quarterback, so I was depending on people to trust. I had to trust them with my life, legit, right? But then we weren't just always on the field, we were off the field as well. So who can I trust you to be in regard to your character and your moral compass, how you're built up? Those are questions about character. So you see where these 2 elements, while they may not make up everything about who we are and what we do in business and life, they absolutely matter. And they are 2 prominent things that we have to always take into consideration. So in our L graph, let's say that this part right here is, you know, let's say this ranks as a 1, and let's say over here, it ranks as a 10. So we're going just from 1 to 10, keeping this really, really simple, right? I like simplicity because simplicity is genius. So let's look at this graph, all right? So if now that we can see this a little bit clearer, 1 is obviously not good, 10 is obviously the best. Well, when it comes to skill sets and character, if we have someone right here who we say, well, this guy doesn't have a high degree of skill set, all right, but they also haven't shown to have a high degree of character, we would put them inside of this box. Now, that's not a good thing, okay? And in most cases, you would write off an individual who doesn't have good character, nor do they have a good skill set. And that's the same way that an employer, executive, a team leader, anyone should view what it is that they've been given in charge of, because you've been called to be a steward over what you have been given. You want to make sure that you put the right people in the right seats to be effective on behalf of the organization. Well, that can't happen if the person doesn't have high skill set, nor do they have a great character, okay? So right here, we say, oh man, no, this person right here has low character and a low skill set. Well, that gets an X. We can't tolerate that. That person won't make it in our organization, okay? Well, let's move up a little bit. Well, what about the person who has a high skill set? So, I mean, they can do something. He's a great salesman, or they're great at customer service, or this person is amazing when it comes to coding. This individual has the ability to connect and gather people. They're amazing at PR, whatever the case might be. All right, so this person has a high degree of skill set. They know a lot and they're able to do a lot and they can get great results. but they don't have the character that they haven't developed the character that we're looking for, all right, inside of our organization, they won't be a good mesh. They'll bump heads. Their personality won't, it'll cause more detriment than it does growth, even though they're good at what they do. Well, personally for me, I say no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah, I know that they're good. I know they're one of the best salesmen we have in the department. I get it. But they're a jerk. He or she is a jerk. We cannot have that in our environment. Why? Because culture matters. Remember, this is about business and life. And we're talking about business and life. We're really talking about culture. And I can't afford for the culture to be dismantled because of personality types. I can't afford it. What we're building, the business is far more important than any one single person here. So I won't take a chance on an individual, even though they have good character, even though they have a great skill set. If they have low character, I will not take a chance on that individual. So this person, even though they have low character, but they have a high skill set, I still say no. That person is who we call a high performer. I call this person here, that's a high performer. They're not a high performance leader. They're just a high performer. They have gotten the ability to do something really, really well. You can tell they studied. You can tell they locked in. That person's probably better off being a solopreneur, okay? Where they don't necessarily have to deal with any other people. They can just run a business and people will pay them to deliver on a service or to deliver on a product, but without having to have much transaction with other individuals, because that person hasn't grown to that capacity yet. That person hasn't grown and developed and matured enough in their character to be able to handle functioning in groups of people, okay? And we see these individuals all over the place. We see these individuals in leadership positions. It's known, especially with men, which is a passion of mine. If you know me, if you've been following me for any extent of time, toxic masculinity is a real thing. What we have, and this happens a lot, believe it or not. You have someone who's really good at what they do, and they get put into a management position without having that understanding that actually, as a manager, it's not your job necessarily to do the craft well. It's your job to teach other people to do the craft well. And that's where a big break in the system usually happens for new management coming in. And that's actually why people reach out to us more times than not to help with that process. So if you have any managers that are dealing with that, you're absolutely in the right place. And this is probably the reason why. So, all right, let's move on though. So we can change the colors a little bit and get away from this red. And let's go more for green, because green means go. So now when we talk about, this other quadrant over here, obviously, we can see where this quadrant over here, a person has a great degree of character, but they don't have so much skill set. So if you're dealing with a person that you would rank over here, you say, well, man, it seems like he's a great guy, or she seems like a great gal. And we really enjoy hanging around, have a great conversations. The atmosphere is awesome when they're around. It's not broken up or anything, but they're not necessarily good at anything. Well, I mark this person green because, like I said at the beginning of this, skill set, science. See, science is transferable. It can be taught. It can be taught to just about anybody. But character requires such a high degree of intentionality that it's almost impossible to teach it. It's almost impossible to teach competencies, which is why the 360 appraisal becomes so powerful for the individual who is ready for it. But I can teach anybody, just about anybody, who has a will and a desire and a faith. I can teach those, those are all competencies, by the way, but I can teach a person just about any skill set. It's really true. If you can see it in your mind, you can achieve it. That's the truth. And in most cases, whatever you see in your mind is the skill set. You don't necessarily see in your mind the character needed to maintain or grow or excel in that skill set, abound in that skill set. But I can absolutely teach a skill set. I can teach you to do this presentation just as good as I'm doing it right now. Or bad, you might be better than me. That's okay. But you get my drift. But a good person, I can't teach you how to be a good person, because beyond the age of really 16, that person has started developing who they are, and it becomes that individual's job from that point moving forward to develop in their intentionality behind personal development and their awareness of self. And like I said, we're not taught these things in our education program, in our education programming. So how do you get it? Well, you get it by doing the personal work on your own, and by reading, and by taking courses, and tuning in on conversations like the one we're having right now. But for this individual, I can absolutely say, oh man, this is a high character guy. Oh, I love high character guys. I love high character guys. Okay, that's a big thumbs up. But they don't have a skill set, low skill set. All right, that's okay. I can still manage with them. I can manage with them as long as the company has the reserves. I can get this guy in the setting, and I know that just by osmosis, this individual will begin to pick up on the nature of our business and how we do things. I'm not just saying this as a theory. This is how I run my organization. We've continuously, I'm what is referred to as a serial entrepreneur, and every person with talent that we bring in isn't necessarily prepared and ready to go. Sometimes we have to put people on the bench a little bit and help them to learn more about our culture, our lingo, what it is that we're doing here, our values. But it really starts there for us. It starts at our core values, you know. And we ask the same question all the time. Hey, you know, out of these 5 core values that make up our organization, if you're trending on 3 out of the 5, it'll be rough, but you'll make it. You know, if it's 4 out of 5, you're doing really good. You got a shot. 5 out of 5, you're a rock star. You'll be here for a long time. 2 out of 5, this isn't the place that you want to be. Why? Because it really starts with those core values. Those core values will determine who you are and who you become. And I'm far more interested in who you're becoming as a leader than I am who you are currently right now. Okay, so let's move on here. We're doing great. We're doing really well. All right. So now, obviously, this is a no-brainer. The high character, high skill set is who you and I want to be in just about everything that we're doing, because we both care about adding value to people and companies, because we realize when we add value, we will be compensated. And when we add value, we will create impact. When we add value, we will naturally gain influence. And that's really what it's about for us here. So yeah, I want to be the high character, and I want to have a high degree of skill set. I want both. And this is who we refer to as linchpins. You know, these are the individuals that are the key employees. These are the ones that this is the person that I'm like, hey, you want to be president? You know, because they have high character and they formed high skill sets. And that is absolutely who we should be all aspiring to be. And you can see now really, really clearly how high performance leadership can help you achieve that. How high performance leadership can help you get that done. All by learning 3, like I said over here, the skill set isn't hard. Like I said, you learn one of 3 skill sets that we spoke about: coaching, speaking, or sales. And that takes care of this component. You can scale to 10, you know, in 3 to 5 years, you can scale to 10. And that's about what it takes to be an expert in any given thing. 5 years, you know, 10,000 hours, 5 years. What that look? That looks like 8 to 5. You working on one specific craft. In 5 years' time, you will be at the bleeding edge of everything there is to offer inside of that industry. All right, or inside, or whoever is in that skill set or that arena, you'll be right along with them. I can guarantee it. All right, that's all that it'll take. Now you do that for 10 years, and you will blow it out of the water what you think you can achieve. All right, that same thing is the case for our leadership development. See, the way that leadership works, again, you know when you're growing as a leader, when people begin to offer you and begin to come more. Attract more towards you, and you become a person of demand. That's when you realize, hey, I'm actually growing as a leader. And at that point, you have solidified your future. You will never want for money or anything at that point. If you can scale your character, you will never want for anything a day in your life, because people will then be drawn towards you. And that is ultimately what we should be trying to accomplish, because, you know, fighting to get in front of people and get them to buy into who you are is not an easy thing. And especially in a world where there are 8 billion people, you know, we have a high degree of, you know, like a BS meter. Our BS meter is super high. You know, we are highly conscious of people coming to take and people coming to give. You can identify them pretty quickly in most cases. So this individual is who we all recognize, this individual, because they usually show up in the form of a servant leader, which is our language here at Neasman Consulting. So I want to just, as we close up, I want to give just one final example. And that final example that I want to talk about for us is a simple game of pickup basketball, you know. So, you know, I'm using this example because maybe because I played sports, but I'm also using this example because I believe that every one of us has been that kid on the playground. And as that child on the playground, you know what it feels like to get in line and be selected to be on a team for playing sports. So in this example, I'm just using basketball. But we can use whatever sport you want to that resonates most with you and your mind. You just following along with what I'm saying. So because I was athletic, I was usually picked really, really early, no matter what the sport was. I was usually picked really, really early, or I was the one doing the picking. And so naturally, you know, I was never on the opposite end of that spectrum here, where, you know, I was the last person getting picked or I didn't get picked at all. But the reason that we're using basketball is because you'll be able to see how skill set matters a lot, especially to young people. You know, when you were young, you didn't think about character. Although you could probably see it, you definitely couldn't express it, probably to the degree that you can now. And so when it came to sports, really your focus was, hey, who can play well? But you can remember being in this line, and you can remember being picked first. The people who got picked first in basketball were the ones that could shoot, or they could dribble, or they played good defense, right? And the ones that got picked last couldn't. And that's really all that it was based on. It was really just based on skill sets, right? Because why? This is a pickup game. It's just we're just out here for recess, and we want to, you know, we want to have fun. We want to play, and I want to make sure I have the best players, the ones with the most skill set on my team. And that element is important to note, because this isn't anything we would have to be doing long term, because it was a pickup game, right? And because it's just a pickup game, you know, I don't care that Johnny is mean sometimes, because Johnny can shoot threes. And more than I care about how much Johnny likes Susie, I care that Johnny is able to get the ball and shoot a three, because I really want to win the game. And even though even though Steven is not nearly, he's a great guy, he can't play basketball to save his life. So I don't want him on my team, or I'm gonna pick him last. And that's how we ended up doing this, you know, as young people, because we weren't thinking about the fact that actually, you know, Steven, who's a great guy, if I pick him on my team, it'll probably benefit me long after this game is over. You know, we're not conscious of these things, but at the same token, we do realize it, because when we made a shift from it just being a pickup game to this being a season, now it's like, I don't want to play with Johnny. I don't want Johnny on my team. I know Johnny can shoot a three, but I have to deal with Johnny for the whole season. And if Johnny treats Susie like that, I can only imagine how he'll treat me if given 10, 12 weeks that we had to be around each other, you know, in practice and in games and traveling and everything else. I just don't want to deal with that kind of guy, right? Even though he can run fast and jump high, I don't want to deal with his character. That's not who I'm trying to deal with. And the reason I'm giving this example is because you can see, even as a young person, you resonate with high performance leadership. No one ever took the time to explain it to you in the same context. But that's exactly how it plays out for us in our lives. High performance leadership is the way, is the truth, is the light. I've built businesses on this. I've used this to lead my home, and I have no question that it can all do the same for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been a course on what is high performance leadership. I hope it's added value to you. Again, my name is Marq Neasman. Fix your crown.